Thank you for joining us for Keys, Bags, Names, Words today. We are now joined by Cynthia Stone and Caroline Priolo in a question and answer session facilitated by Sigrid Duesberg, Ashby Village Events Team Lead. Award-winning producer-director Cynthia Stone has been creating social justice documentary-style pieces for nearly 3 decades. Her work has appeared on KQED and nationally on PBS, the BBC PRI, and the Discovery Channel, among others. She's covered education, the environment, health, poverty, and equity issues, and is inspired to highlight people and programs finding solutions to seemingly intractable problems. The wisdom and humor of those in this film helped her better connect with and care for her own mother throughout her aging process, from her vital active years through her memory loss. Caroline Priolo co-leads the Hear, Say Oral History Project that focuses on collecting and sharing personal stories about the experience of aging, dementia, and caregiving. The Hear, Say team teaches classes and workshops and has produced 2 books of stories with more to come. The project focuses on ethically collecting, preserving, and sharing these stories, which is how this film got started. Thank you for your interest in this film. And now on to Sigrid.
Somebody said that this is so beautiful, and I hope you will tell how to get in touch with those that have expertise in the field. And a question, are there more men diagnosed with dementia, or doesn't it seem to make a difference? So there are a few questions.
Yeah, maybe somebody asked a question about how you get connected to resources, I believe. If you go to our website, Caroline, you can answer this more broadly, but if you like to go to our website for the film, it's keysbagsnameswords.com. I think it's in the chat. We do have a section there on resources, things to University of California, San Francisco, the Global Brain Health Institute, and to the Memory and Aging Center. And they have lots of questions, frequently asked questions, and you can get connected there. And that might be a good place to start. Caroline, do you have something else you would recommend?
And those are some specific ones, and particularly the ones that are mentioned in this film. But more broadly, I think an academic research institute near you, even your primary physician or primary care provider, could hopefully connect you with more resources. University of Florida has a tremendous program of the arts in health. And so if you look up arts and health or go directly to University of Florida, you can start to find and work on building a network of artists so that you can hopefully find artists that are near you, and artists can find each other who want to work in health. And there's 2 types of people. There's art therapists who go through a very specific training, and then there's people who are artists who just connect and work with people. And it's not as much of a training, but I think both can be helpful. And particularly, if you're looking to work through a trauma, then you probably need an art therapist. But if you're looking to just connect and to be creative and explore, I mean, there are a lot of artists who are working with, aging people with brain injuries. Art with Elders is a local Bay Area group that does a lot of stroke and a lot of brain injury, but also dementia. So there are artists around that are doing amazing programs, excuse me, and physical therapists who run dance programs and things like that. So I think, particularly look at your academic, your academic institutions and see if they can help you connect with, artists in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I love that line that Karen Diamond says. She says, dementia is a life-changing moment. And if you're not processing that, then you're stuck and trying to shift from fear of what's to come. And I think art is really powerful in helping to do that.
Yeah, there was actually a question about the name of the medical anthropologist artist, who that was. That was one.
Yes, she's an amazing person, and I learned so much from her in terms of how to connect with my own mom when she suffered memory loss. And her name's Dana Walrath, Alrath. And she's actually creating an opera now around Alzheimer's. So she just keeps going with all of these creative pursuits and trying to raise awareness and try to help people connect better, even maybe after someone doesn't recognize us. What are those ways that we can still connect with our loved ones?
And if you want to connect directly with any of the Atlantic Fellows or the Global Brain Health Institute faculty, you can go to gbhi.org, which is the website for the Global Brain Health Institute, and everybody's bio is listed there with ways to contact them. So people are open to being, reached out to if you're looking for someone in your area, or even just want to find out what else is going on. They're all passionate about the work they do and happy to share.
I am not reading all the accolades, but there are many, many compliments. You get a beautiful film, wonderful documentary, and thank you for an excellent film. And yeah, somebody's asking, how did you come up with the title? That was actually initially my question too, but then at the end, you find out. I assume that's where you got the idea, right?
Yeah, so when you hear it in the film, when Nick is on stage and he says keys, bags, names, words, we wanted to pick a line out of the film, and I've a phenomenal editor, Linda Peckham, and that was her idea. Let's get a line out of the film. And so when I was scrubbing through, and we had a lot of really wonderful contenders, but that just, the way he looks in the camera and really connects with you, I just think it's a very kind of punches you in the gut, that one line. And so there's a funny story that we had that line chosen, and then we were working with a very well-known distributor of independent documentaries that are sort of social justice oriented. And the first thing he said was, "You've got to change that name." And so we engaged in this big process of asking, maybe 200 people, okay, someone came up with like 300 names, and we narrowed it down to 5. And then we asked all these folks, which one do you like? And then in the end, the distributor said, "No, I love the original name." So we stuck with it. And so we really do love that name, and just kind of about what you lose, even though the film is very much about hope and all the things you can do to protect your own brain health and connect with others. That is a very poignant moment in the film. So and a little bit quirky and different. So we stuck with it.
And it becomes a bit of a brain test or cognitive test
Yes.
to see if you can remember.
True.
I just wanted to say it took me a while to remember.
Yeah, I know. It's not the smartest marketing decision, but I think it works well.
It helps me to think that it gets bigger. It's the keys and its bags and its words and its name.
There were a couple of questions about medications. I think you didn't really mention any medications in this film, and but somebody is specifically asking, is there a current medication or treatment that treats the cause of Alzheimer's? Did you come across anything, while you did your research, and or are there only medications that treat or delay symptoms?
That's the main thing. And Walt at one point says that, there's no cures right now. You only treat symptoms. Well, since then, there have now been 2 drugs approved that are disease modifying drugs. And there's a third one that feels very close to being approved. It's not yet, so we'll wait and see what happens. These drugs are available in clinical trials, again, at major sort of academic research institutes. They're not without risk. One is called aducanumab, one is called lecanemab, and I'm trying to remember the brand names for them. Sorry, I know the generic names, but what they do is there's proteins involved in Alzheimer's disease, and these drugs remove the amyloid plaques. So there's neurofibrillary tangles and amyloid plaques, and these remove the amyloid plaques in an attempt to sort of protect the brain and protect it from the damage of these plaques and tangles. The benefits appear to be very significantly, they show up on statistics, but they're not huge benefits, and there's a lot of risks, including brain bleeds. So it's a significant. You really need a lot of care and supervision if you're going to take these. So that's why they, most centers, the Memory and Aging Center does offer them. but they'll go through a big evaluation to see, are you a good candidate for it? Where in the course of disease are you? Is it likely to help you? And, help you sort of weigh these risks of, are the benefits more likely to be greater than the downsides? And the hope is that these are the early drugs, much like HIV or cancer or other diseases like that, where the early drugs didn't do a great job, but they paved the way for much better ones to come. So we're hoping these are just the first round of drugs, and that hopefully better ones that will have less side effects and better results will come soon. But we're glad to have at least something. We're getting there.
Caroline, how do you define disease modifying? Because I think it's not a cure, right? It's changes can you explain that?
It basically slows the decline. Like it won't bring you back to the start. It doesn't prevent it. The best things for prevention are lifestyle changes, as we talk about in the film. And even those are reducing risk factors. So that's not 100% either. You can't call it a vaccine. But disease modifying means it gets at the molecular structure. It's changing, the definition of Alzheimer's disease is amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles, and it's removing one of those. So it's changing the definition of the disease, and so therefore it slows the rate of decrease and helps protect the cognitive skills for longer, but it doesn't stop the disease. It doesn't reverse the disease. And so that's what we kind of hope at some point we can hopefully first stop it. And, a dream would be to eventually reverse damage, but.
I have felt challenged to retain a relationship with a friend who has early onset dementia. Reaching out has always created more work and stress for their family and partner. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I just think, I don't know, in my experience with the folks in the film and with my own mom, I mean, and my neighbor who has dementia, isolation is such a big risk factor that makes the disease, I think, progress. And then also it's just so isolating for that person that I really think any connection that you can make is wonderful. And it's just sitting with someone, maybe they can't have a big conversation, but even, touch, holding someone's hand, or just walking with someone, or being in the garden with someone. I had a really good friend whose husband had dementia, and he loved photography. So she found a person who was a professor of photography at a local community college, and that person would come over a couple times a week and just walk around the city with her husband and take photographs and then manipulate them on the computer. So I don't know, I just think that connection is really important, even if it's hard or awkward. I think it means a lot for the person and the caregiver. You mentioned that it caused a lot of stress for the family. Sometimes it is awkward, but I think that awkwardness is okay, and it's worth it to try to be with somebody.
And I think just being present with realizing the person has a brain disease. So let them drive, in the sense, not drive a car, but drive in the sense of, maybe it's a bad day and maybe you had plans that you were excited about, but the person really can only be with you for 5 minutes. Well, then you had 5 minutes of wonderful time together and call it a day. Another day they may be with you for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. So I think, it would stress the family out. I would think, at least if you were going and expecting them to entertain you or to be there for you. And I think you kind of needed to read their vibes. And each day is different, unfortunately, with someone with impairment, and they may have a good day or they may have a bad day. And I think you just need to set yourself to be ready. This may be a bad day and maybe I'm not helping, but a different day I could help. And sometimes you can help by just providing food or respite care for the caregiver, or give them a great book that maybe they don't get to read it for another year, but maybe they know they can read it. Or, there may be other ways you can help that may be less obvious or may feel softer, if that
Yeah,
helps.
I love that about giving respite to the caregivers. As probably all of you know, it's just a huge job, and so it is really tiring and sometimes dispiriting. So just providing that little bit of time for them to recharge is really a huge gift.
Somebody asked, you didn't portray much about later stages of Alzheimer's disease. Do patients actually ever commit suicide?
Well, I'll let you comment on the suicide part. I think Don was in the very late stages of his disease. He actually passed away very shortly after we stopped filming. But do you know the statistics on suicide?
I don't know what the number is. There are some, and I can certainly speak for our center. I'm assuming all centers have a protocol that the minute you hear sort of sounds of that someone's thinking about this, I mean, people jump into action to try and, assess the situation and find out what's going on, how can they help, what can be done. So yeah, I mean, I think as with anyone, it's possible, and you just, yeah, you want to help someone not get to that dark a space, that hopefully they feel loved and valued and appreciated until the end of their time. Yeah.
What I was wondering is, I mean, in the film, you see there is talk of talk about dementia and talk about Alzheimer's, and it's kind of like sometimes isn't quite clear. I mean, or how should I say? I mean, is it considered the same or similar, or because I always thought there were differences actually, but
The the easiest way I think to think about it is an umbrella. Dementia would be the umbrella, and then there's 12 to 15 different types of diseases that cause dementia. And actually, there's even dementias that are reversible. Some drugs will cause a temporary dementia, and you stop the drug, and the dementia reverses, or metabolic diseases. So if someone's having cognitive impairment, the best thing to do is get an evaluation from a neurologist and find out what's causing it. Because if it is something, I think incontinence drugs can cause it, things like that, like things that are fairly common drugs can cause it. So then you just stop taking that drug. But if it is a neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's disease, like frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body dementia, those are a progressive chronic disease that, as I said, now we have 2 disease modifying drugs, but we don't have great treatments for. And we're hoping to get better. But yeah, so it depends what's causing it. But in this case, we tend to use them interchangeably. But no, I mean, Alzheimer's has a distinct definition. Frontal temporal dementia has a different definition. They're all different types of disease.
yeah, because you just mentioned it, somebody asked, I dealt with FTD and wish there was more talk about dementia other than Alzheimer's and memory. I mean, this is more a comment than a question, actually.
Yeah, but it's an interesting history where Alzheimer's was the first one to define Alzheimer's disease, and frontal Pick's disease was, gosh, both of those were defined in the 19th century. But then somewhere around, what was it, I think the 1950s to like the 1970s, everything got called Alzheimer's and was like, oh, you can't tell them apart during life. And so that's where I think, unfortunately, where we're still dealing with this legacy of everything got called Alzheimer's when there really were a variety of diseases. And now that we can really see the pathology and through things like MRI and PET scans, you can really see the different diseases that people have. We're starting to tease them apart again and starting to understand which is going to matter when we have the right drugs to treat someone, because you want to get the right drug for the right disease. The wrong drug probably won't help. So it's getting more and more important to know exactly what someone has.
Yeah, and some of them, each one has different effects on people too. So that is really important to understand.
Yeah, it helps you anticipate what might be coming or what the speed of symptoms might be. Yeah.
Well, another comment, beautifully done. I see on the website screenings all over. For people in the Bay Area and elsewhere, will there be other opportunities to view the film or ways to stream it individually besides the 2 weeks that it's now available to us?
Yeah, we're hoping that it'll be at the Rafael in San Rafael in the spring. So that's it's been shown, I don't know, it was at the Vogue and in Berkeley and up in Sebastopol. And so, yeah, we hope it will be in May, but if you would like to do a screening, it can be a very small group of people, or you can work with a theater and an organization to have a theater, or show it in a workplace. But if you go to our website, keysbagsnameswords.com, and just click on the host a screening button, you can find out more about it. And we give you marketing materials and discussion guide and all sorts of things. And so it's a reasonable, it's just a very small licensing fee, but Yeah, so we'd love for as many people. I think it's been in 28 countries so far, and so it's really getting around, and we just want as many people as possible to see it. So that would be wonderful if you'd like to do that.
The
We'll
next,
work with you. We're interested in helping you see it. It's just while we work out getting it to streaming and things like that, that we have to keep it behind a paywall for now, but we'll help you. We want you to be able to see it. Yeah.
I like the next question. What was the experience like for you both making the film?
Gosh, it was such a learning experience for me. I was so happy to meet Caroline because she can tell you a little bit about the oral history project that they were doing, which was the genesis for the film. And I got the great privilege of just observing and interviewing probably 100 people to see which people would tell the story best and kind of exemplify the themes that we wanted to cover. And so I met all these incredible people, and as I said, as you said in the open, I really learned so much from them in terms of how to be with my own mom when she developed memory loss. That to me it was like a gift because I wouldn't have known not to kind of try to haul her back into my world all the time and just to kind of let go of the fear and go where she went and just to be with her in the moment. And so to me that was everything. And then working with the Global Brain Health Institute, I just learned so much and got to collaborate with Caroline, which was wonderful. So for me, it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was huge. So we've done this oral history project, gosh, since I think 2008 was when we first started. We partnered with Voice of Witness, a social justice storytelling group, and they trained us first, and then we've kept it going ever since. We're part of the curriculum now where we teach sort of ethical storytelling of inviting people to share their stories, constantly checking back in with them if the stories are correctly reflecting their experience. But we really wanted to get at this sort of multifaceted experience of dementia, that there's moments of beauty and joy, there's obviously moments of pain and suffering, and kind of wanted to show that it's a full range experience. It's not just one experience. And so that's what started these books. And we were doing these readings, and we wanted to share these just incredible stories. And that's when people came to us like, oh my gosh, you have to turn this into a film. And so that's when we met Cynthia. And I kind of kept thinking, how are we ever going to string all these stories together? Like, the books have a theme, but beyond that, everyone's story is so different and so varied. And it was a fun process to watch Cynthia and particularly editor Linda Beckham also like how to sift through these stories. We talked with lots of people. There's teams of people here that you're not seeing. That we have a family advisory committee that consult people who are caregivers or people living with dementia who consult to our clinics and make sure that we're treating people with dignity and in meeting their needs. And then they consulted and said, here's what we'd like to see, here's what's important to us. And so we really just talked to tons and tons of people. And so it was fun and exciting in that sense. You learn endlessly, and marvelous process, I guess, of watching a story unfold. And yeah, people just, and it's been beautiful for me to sit back and watch the end result and just see, like Jill and Dawn, how beautifully they did, and the fellows, how great they all were. And it's been lovely. So it's a lot of work, but very exciting.
It definitely shines through it. I mean, that, you really, I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing film, and I really hope many more people get to see it. It's very important, and it's a very important topic too. And we get older and older, so
Yeah. Thank you. It means a lot.
yeah. So there's another question: is there any progress on acquiring additional government-based funding for people experiencing Alzheimer's disease or dementia symptoms related to the need for long-term care, beyond what family members are able to provide? Do you have any information about that?
Maybe you do more than I do, Caroline. I just know that this is one thing that Walt Dawson continues to work on. And, we hear a little bit more about long-term care, but it really is something that is vital that families have more support. So any letters people can write or get any way you can get involved to try to kind of push that legislation it would be wonderful. Caroline, do you know anything more specific?
I don't know anything more specific, although I do know the Alzheimer's Association has a very active advocacy wing. So if you're interested in advocating, they will introduce you to people in Sacramento, nationwide. They'll help you write letters and join on campaigns and help you get educated, to fight for rights and things like that. I do know Medicare is now providing, it's not so much long-term care, but it's called the Guide Plan, and it's just coming out, I think, this June, and that was based on the care ecosystem at UCSF, where they're basically college-educated guides, care team navigators who can help you navigate the healthcare system and get the care you need and get it more, what's the word I'm looking for? Unified, I guess. Unfortunately, you meet with a neurologist, you hear this, you meet with a neuropsychologist, you hear that, and this person helps you sort of meet with the pharmacist, meet with the nursing staff, get all those care plans together so they're coherent. And you have a more strategic approach to the disease. And so hopefully some of these will make the experience a little bit more manageable and less daunting,
Mm.
but we still have work to do.
How can people who do not yet have symptoms get PET scans to determine if they have the biological changes which occurred during the 20 years prior to symptoms? Do you know about that?
A PET scan is going to be hard to get without a symptom just because they're very pricey in insurance. There's another big program, the LEADS research study, which Gil Rabinovich, who runs the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center at UCSF, he's doing a lot of research on that, which is showing that actually having these PET scans does change clinical care and therefore should be covered. So hopefully some of this will change and things like that will become more available. And actually, there's a lot of blood tests that are in the works now. So hopefully blood tests will become available and be much less expensive. But the best things to do right now are the lifestyle changes, are to exercise, eat well, get your sleep, maintain the cardiovascular risks, watch your blood pressure, get control your diabetes, things like that. If you can take care of things like that, you'll be in much better shape.
Yeah. How can I assist in advocacy efforts on behalf of those who are affected?
As they reach out to the Alzheimer's Society, they have a wonderful advocacy program. That's probably the easiest.
Mm-hmm. And what are your goals for the showing of this film around the world?
Well, we'd love to have it just continue it with these community screenings. And also, we just got a little more funding to try to get some video on demand screenings. So we're looking at video on demand and also an educational distributor. And we would like to eventually cut it down to an hour, which seems painful, but we would like to have it on PBS. So that's another goal that we have. Yeah, because the goal of this film has always been to be a tool to get people connected to resources and build awareness. And so we're just really hoping as many people as possible can see the film.
And we have been showing it at some medical and scientific conferences to help change how people are trained in dementia care. We've been adding it to nursing and midwifery programs. So we're trying to find sort of creative ways to use it that'll reach people where it can really change how care is delivered.
Yeah.
But this question actually came from Lynn Richards, and I'm just taking the opportunity here to say thank you so much, Lynn. She actually was the one who brought that film, the idea of this film, to us, to the events team, and she did a lot of work for that. And so I want to say thank you, Lynn, on behalf of everybody here, I think. And yeah, great job.
Thank you, Lynn.
So what can you tell us about the new findings about the importance of gut biome and other digestive system connection to dementia?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
The gut biome.
The importance of gut biome and other digestive system connection to dementia.
I'm probably not qualified to say much. I do know that the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet are considered very helpful for your brain health. So if you're going to follow a dietary system, which obviously affects your gut biome, those are, eating lots of vegetables, less salt, sugar, less red meat, more fish, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and then getting lots of exercise. All those help, and they do support a healthy biome. So I'm sure there's some synergy there, but I'm sorry, I don't have the information to speak competently on that.
A comment from a geriatric care manager, and he said, or she said, I was most interested in the art and movement classes for my clients with dementia. I like the idea of simply painting lines with various shades of blue and purple. Thank you.
That's
I love
good.
it. Very relaxing.
That's a very sweet moment in the film, and it always gets a laugh when she said, I just didn't think it would make a difference, and then she looked up and said, "That's very relaxing." So yeah,
Try it.
absolutely, yeah. Well, that's a thing. There's no one thing that works for everyone, right? It's just trying a lot of different things to see what resonates with someone, whether it's music or art or exercise or dance or any of those things. Yeah, just seeing what sparks something, a connection for someone.
And it may change, so be ready to keep
Right.
trying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Caroline, how can a caregiver connect with your project? My partner had CFIDS/EI for 13 years and then took her own life.
Hmm.
Made a video and audio documentation of discussions she had.
So she might want to connect with GBHI for the fellowship, Caroline, if they have a film or I don't know.
Yeah. You could reach out to hearsay at gbhi.org, which is HEAR hyphen SAY at gbhi.org, and we can talk more. Yes, if you're interested in actually becoming an Atlantic Fellow, you can apply to the Atlantic Fellow program. We take about 20 fellows each year from all over around the world, and they're artists, journalists, physicians, scientists, and they all come together and study brain health for a year. And then they become these lifelong fellows, and they all work around the world and work together to, try and improve brain health, which is both prevention as well as diagnosis and care of people. So yeah, so depending what you're interested in, there's 1,000 directions we can help.
I also found the paragraph that belongs to this post. It comes way down. So we made a video and audio documentation of discussions she had with friends and relatives, and audio conversations we had with each other in the year leading up to her planned suicide. So she actually, I don't know if she gives her name and phone number, and we can pass it on to you.
Yeah. Another group you might be interested in is Voice of Witness, and it might be interesting to talk with them. They're more storytelling more broadly, a social justice group, but if you're interested in advocating for, right to die, that might be they might be interested in writing a book on that with multiple people talking about their experiences, probably pro and con. I don't know, that might be an interesting book. So
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe people don't want to continue life as compromised with FTD. My husband was aware of how he couldn't follow directions and said he felt like a bad person.
Yeah. I think that period where people know that they're impaired is probably one of the most difficult, not only for the person, but the caregiver, because it's just so heartbreaking, The care might get a little harder, but somehow emotionally and psychologically maybe a little easier when they kind of lose that awareness that there's something wrong with them and they're just in another state. But yeah, I hear that. It's really hard.
and I think you look for where the strengths still are. A lot of our patients who lose language become more visually active, and they're able to paint or to create art. And so, maybe your conversations have changed and you're not so word focused. Maybe it's not stories and conversations, but maybe it's videos or painting or drawing that you can do together. And so I think look for the strengths. Sorry, I have the dog.
One thing that I really liked about your film is also that you actually show quite a bit. What impact Alzheimer's and dementia in general has on families, and partners and children and the whole family's friends. I think this is really important to mention too, because it has a huge impact on everybody.
Yes, that's so true. Like Helen Rocher Brennan, the advocate in Ireland, her son says, this is a whole family disease and you have to talk about it. And yes, you're absolutely right. And not only the immediate family, but friends and yeah. So it needs to be treated like a family system. And I don't know, anything we all can do to reach out to somebody who may be facing this and volunteer to provide respite for someone or to be with someone who has dementia and is as I said, a real gift to the family.
Hmm. Is Alzheimer's always inherited? I don't think so.
Only about 15%, 15, 20% is inherited. Most of it is what we call spontaneous. We don't know, where it comes from. It's there's a small amount that has a autosomal dominant gene, which would be like a single gene you can point to and say, this is why you have it. Most people, it's, a combination of factors and risk factors and life experiences. And we don't know why someone gets it. So research is still being done to hopefully get more clear on why some people develop it and maybe why they get frontal temporal dementia instead of Alzheimer's or things like that. Is there a vulnerability in the brain in a certain area that a certain network has hit versus a different network?
What is the name of the Medicare guide coming out in June, which Caroline mentioned?
Oh, it's actually called GUIDE, GUIDE, and it's the Guiding an Improved Dementia Experience. And I believe it's June that it'll be announced through Medicare. So it should hopefully be nationwide and available. I'm not super familiar with Medicare and how they roll things out. So my guess is it might be a little bumpy, but yeah, keep your eyes out for it. If you look at the CMS website, they should have some more information on it as well.
Where can caregivers go for resources or support when they are beginning to experience caregiver burnout?
Support groups, I think, are a lot of people say that, oh, I don't need a support group. Gosh, that's where all the best ideas come from and the best connections. And a lot of our support groups, people become lifetime friends. There's a group of men that have become friends, gosh, for 15 years now, caring for spouses that have passed away, and the men have just stayed on being friends. And so even if you don't think you need a support group, I'd say try it. And maybe you just need to find the right one. Maybe if you've tried one before, it wasn't the right one. It does help if you can get one for the specific disease you have, because the issues the other people are dealing with are the same ones you're dealing with. But even any support group would probably help, and they can point you to local resources, A, for artists, but B, also for respite care, or, oh, we found a great person who, can come in the house and relieve you for 2 hours so that you can, go for a long run or something like that. They'll help you find ways to solve your particular problems.
Yeah, this is more for Ashby Village. Can you please post a link to the Alzheimer's Association somewhere for those who are looking for advice opportunities? Yeah, I think we are pretty much at the end. I have a friend in her late 50s with MS. It runs in her family. She's concerned about Alzheimer's and dementia. Is there a correlation?
Not that I know of, but I may not. Again, I feel like I'm speaking a little bit out of my element. I don't think there's a correlation to them. They're both, tragic diseases, and I'm very sorry to hear about that. But they are different diseases, so I don't think having one makes you more susceptible to the other.
Somebody mentions the Family Caregiver Alliance. I assume that's meant in
Another wonderful group. I think locally based too. Yeah, nationwide, but I think locally based.
Right. Okay, and I think that's it. So thank you so much for staying on for so long after the film again. Wonderful film. Thank you. And also thank you for giving us the opportunity to watch it again. I mean, we have 2 weeks now, can watch it again, can maybe watch it with a friend or a partner, so thanks again, and we'll see what's coming.
Send these
out
pics
of
to the
here.
website and sign up to watch it again.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for the opportunity, and to everyone who came. It's really wonderful, and thanks for all the great questions too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.